Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Today's video I'm going to be sharing with you how I make my 12-hour, no-nonsense, easy sourdough sandwich loaf. I find that sourdough can be very overwhelming and very complicated. It doesn't have to be. So my goal in this video is to make this as simple and as easy to follow and less complicated as it possibly can be for people. So this is a no-nonsense sourdough recipe. This recipe is 12 hours, so you will feed your starter the evening or the day before, and then you're ready to start your dough in the morning. So I typically do mine mid to late morning after I drop my kids off at school, and then it's ready out of the oven in the evening sometime, just depending on how long you let it ferment. If you don't have a starter, then I will show you another video how to start your own starter, or you can get one from a friend or find something on Marketplace or anywhere. They have them everywhere nowadays. Okay, this is a 12-hour sourdough recipe. 12-hour sandwich loaf. This isn't working. I don't even know what I'm saying. The key ingredients for your sourdough is going to be your starter. You're also going to want a scale, a kitchen scale. You're definitely going to need this because this is the most accurate way to measure. I got this one off Amazon. It was really cheap a couple years ago. You're gonna need some sort of bowl and some sort of spoon or whisk. I use a dough whisk, and but you can use a regular wooden spoon. So, and then also going to need water. I use room temperature or lukewarm water just to help the yeast and the bacteria to start to activate quicker, since we want to have this loaf ready within the same day. So same day sandwich loaf recipe. I do not take credit for this recipe. I will link the Instagram account that I found this recipe on in the description. Last but not least, not last. Next, you're going to need some sort of flour. I always use my organic all-purpose wheat flour. You are welcome to use any flour that you like, but this recipe, this is what I use. So in terms of experimenting with other flours, that's something that you'll probably have to play around with a little bit. And next for this recipe is, you're gonna need honey for this recipe. I just use a nice unpasteurized raw honey and olive oil. I like to use a light tasting olive oil. You can use whatever oil you like to use. So this is what your loaf will look like. This is what I made this one yesterday. I'm gonna make some more just for the purpose of this video. I will put the actual recipe in the description as well, so it's easy to write it down. So I'm just gonna zero out my scale, and I'm gonna add 600 grams of lukewarm water, or room temperature. Now we're gonna add in 200 grams of the starter. So I'm just gonna dump it straight in, because it's easy. Then I'm gonna stir it around, just so that it's nice and incorporated. This will make 2 loaves, so if you don't need it 2 loaves, you can just divide this in half. So next up is 120 grams of honey and 40 grams of oil. I'm gonna stir that around. Next up, I'm gonna add the flour. So we want 1,000 grams of flour. 20 grams of sea salt. And then you're gonna wanna just mix it all together until it's fully incorporated. So it's gonna start coming together here. It doesn't need to be perfect. It's gonna be a shaggy dough. Okay, so that's good. Okay, so now I've got all of the ingredients incorporated together. It's just a nice shaggy sticky dough. So you're just gonna cover it and you're gonna let it sit for 45 minutes. I normally like to put it on, I have granite countertops, so I like to have something a little bit warmer, not as cold. I put it on my cutting boards. You can stick it in a warmer area depending on the temperature of your house, but the key with this is the more you do it, the more you will become familiar with what the dough looks like and what's happening. So I'm just gonna let this sit on my cutting board for 45 minutes. We'll come back and then we will do some stretch and folds and I will show you what that looks like and how easy that is. So I'm going to show you guys how I take care of my starter. So now that I've just used the starter, I need to replenish what is there. So there's still a good amount in there. I could probably use this for one more recipe, but I'm gonna show you guys another sourdough recipe for another video, so I'm gonna film that probably tomorrow. So I will feed this now so that it's ready for tomorrow. Super easy. I usually have this in a bigger jar, but I was cleaning it out, so I was just using the small one. It's a little harder because the mouth is narrow. So when I'm filling it up with flour, I just hold it over top of my flour container. Then we're gonna add some water. And this part, I usually use cold water just because if it's too warm, I don't want it to activate it and have it sit for too long without using it. Then I just use a spoon. You always want to use a wooden spoon if you have one. Then you just stir it around. I'm just stirring it all up in here. If you can't stir, if it's too thick, then you just add a little bit more water. I just kind of eyeball it. So I can show you how thick. So this is what I like my starter to be. I like it to be on the thicker side. You can do it more water. I've done it all different ways and it still works. I don't like to complicate it. Life is complicated enough when you are a working mom or dad. Things like being in the kitchen should be fun and not stressful and not complicated. Complicated enough that it's an art and that you enjoy it, but not too complicated that you can't figure it out in the first place. So there's my starter. I'm gonna stick it on my windowsill. I normally stick it here. You can also cover it. I don't because right now there's no fruit flies or anything like that, but you can cover it just to make sure it stays clean and nothing gets in there. And I actually use a glass lid. I'll show you what I use. So this is what I typically use for my sourdough starter. It's a nice big jar. You can see what's happening. It's nice and wide, easy to stir, easy to clean. So this, I will swap this out once we're done with this. Okay, I'm back. So this is what my dough looks like now. What I'm gonna do is I'm going to do what's called a stretch and fold. So I'm gonna pull the dough up and fold it back into itself. I'm gonna go around the bowl a couple times and then cover it and put it back, let it sit for another 45 minutes. So I've already washed my hands. So I pull it up and fold it back down, pull. Go all the way around. The first time is gonna be the stickiest. So as you can see, it's starting to come together and it's resisting me, so that's what you want. This will create all that air bubbles and the texture of the dough. So I just cover it back up and then I'm going to let it sit for another 45 minutes to an hour. Do that one more time and then we'll shape it and put it into the bread pans. Wash my hands. So this dough recipe makes 2 loaves and I find that what's best for my family, we're a family of 5, is that I freeze 1 loaf and we eat the other one. So This bread freezes really well. Once we're ready to eat it, we need another loaf. I just take it out of the freezer and defrost it, and it's ready to go. Quiet on set. Stretch and fold.
No.
Number 2. There's the dough. It's starting to get a little bit more puffy and shiny. Not feel ashamed, you know you wouldn't want it any other way. That is the story, I'm sticking to it, sticking to it. Bouncing around because it's just loud in the background. I'm still recording? I didn't know I was recording this whole time. Okay, so the bread is gonna sit for a little bit longer now, another 45 minutes, and then I'm going to put it into, I'm going to now shape the bread into my bread loaf pan. So I'm gonna divide the dough in half, roll it up, plop it in there, so it can sit and do its final rise for, I like to do it for a couple of hours. Right now it's almost 5 o'clock, so it'll be ready to bake at 7. I did start this a little bit later than I normally do, so if you time it properly, then you don't have to wait as long. Yeah, this is Kate's favorite. It's the best. It's the best recipe. And you know what? It's actually easy. 5 simple ingredients: flour, water, salt, honey, oil. Everybody pretty much has that in their kitchen. And this is a true 12-hour recipe. It is the perfect amount of sourdough flavor, kid approved, and it's a nice convenient sandwich loaf. So you slice it up, it's perfect for sandwiches. Hopefully you guys enjoy it because it's definitely a favorite over here. Boom, done. I do. Okay, so now what I do is I divide the dough into 2 equal parts. I'm gonna shape it into a sandwich loaf style shape. I just use my bread pans and I line them with parchment paper. I will sprinkle some flour just so it doesn't stick. You don't need a lot. So now, what I do is I sort of stretch the dough a little bit, just to give it some tension, like so. And then I'm gonna fold it back into itself and roll it like this. Just to create tension in the dough, and then I pull it towards myself. It doesn't have to be perfect. Something just like that is fine. Stick it in my pan, just like that. You can see there's bubbles in here in the dough. That's what you want to see. You don't want to break the bubbles as much as possible, but you want to create some tension here. So that's good. Stick it in the other pan, like so. And now I'm going to cover both of my baking pans. I'm going to stick this in a warm area. So I use my mechanical room, like where I have my boiler, or you can use your oven with the light on. You can use any warm area beside a fireplace or something like that. I just do that just to help it rise a little quicker. So now this is gonna be the last and final proofing for the sourdough. This is going to be probably about 2 hours that I let this rise. The warmer the area is, the faster it will rise. So It's kind of like my cheat code. If I don't have as much time, I'll stick it in a really warm area so it'll rise quicker. So rule of thumb is about 3 hours at room temperature. So covered it with my little covers here, and I'm gonna stick it in my warm area. Okay, so now when I am done letting it rise, I will take them out, preheat my oven to 350, and I will bake it for 45 minutes. Right now it is 5:45, so around 7:45, I will take a look at the dough and see how it's risen. You kind of want to see it almost doubling in size. So that's kind of what I look for it to be ready to bake. You can bake it earlier, it just won't be as fluffy. So the longer you let it rise, the longer or the better it'll be, the more fluffy it'll be. And sorry, I've got dough fingers. So that's that. Ooh. So they've risen quite a bit. I'm just preheating my oven to 350 and then bake them for 45 minutes. Okay, there we go. Okay, so this is what the loaf looks like. Now, my son just cut into it. It is super fluffy. I'm having a piece of toast right now with butter. Super fluffy. The ones that I baked yesterday, I've already put in the freezer, so this one needed to be used up first. So this one's actually even been in the freezer already and defrosted, and it still is absolutely delicious. My son just made me a piece of toast, so I hope you guys enjoy the recipe, and thanks for watching.